They said the dragon was untamable. They said it was born fierce, shaped by void and fire, a living storm in scales. They said any hunter who walked near it would die. But they did not know the truth. This creature may look like a monster, but it is not what you think, because grief is louder than rage, and grief had chained the dragon's heart. The Empire called it Ashenwing. The Empire called it a threat. The Empire was wrong. If no one could understand the dragon, it would starve itself. If no one could reach it, the Emperor would order the kill. The last of its kind would die, and the Empire would carry that silence forever. Cities would cheer for safety, then learn what safety costs. Children would grow up never seeing black wings against dusk, never hearing the sky sing when a great body rises. And the Emperor would pretend not to hear his own conscience. He would pretend not to see the empty space where a miracle used to live. In the high palace, fear moved like a cold wind. The Emperor stood pale and still. 17 masters had failed. 17. Some had broken bones. Some had burned skin. All had left shaken and small. Reports told the same story. Ashenwing refused food. Ashenwing struck at anyone near. The containment field shook when he breathed. The head trainer said the word most people hid from. Euthanize. The Emperor said no. He said no with a voice like a door closing. He said, find another way. Find someone who can speak a language we do not know. Far from the throne, near the lower gates, a hunter signed his name for a day's work. His name was Cale Arden. He did not look dangerous. He wore plain boots, a scuffed coat, and a thin ring on a cord. He had the look of a man who missed someone. The guild knew him in another life before the war, before loss, when he shot true and brought back meat for mountain towns. But that life had snapped like a branch in frost. He carried silence the way others carried a blade. Cale heard the whispers about the dragon. He heard them like distant thunder. He went to the arena wall on his break, watched through glass as black scales moved in the dark. The creature paced, back and forth, back and forth. Not random, not wild. A restless rhythm that looked like pain trying to find a door. The head trainer saw Cale watching and did not wave him away. She came close. Why do you stare at death? She asked. Cale did not look away from the glass. Because it is not death, he said. It is a life that hurts. Can you tame? She asked. No, Kyle said. I hunt, or I used to. I track patterns. I listen to ground and wind. Taming is loud. Listening is quiet. She weighed his words in his face. You are grieving, she said. Yes, he said. You think grief is a skill? No, he said. But it is a language. She made a choice then. It was not safe. It was not wise. It was the only thread she had left to pull. 1 hour in the pit, she said. Survive it and I pay you more than a season's wages. Do not survive, and the money goes to your kin. Kyle's jaw moved once, a small muscle, like a tremor under skin. My wife is gone, he said. My boy is gone. There is no kin left, but there are graves to tend and debts to pay. I will go in. Night came with slow feet. Cale did not sleep. He cleaned his boots. He checked the ring on the cord. He said the names that lived in him like coals. He practiced breathing until his ribs felt wide and steady. In the morning, he walked to the arena with the head trainer and a handful of experts who spoke in sharp words and carried bright tools. They offered him a shock rod. It might buy you seconds, one said. I do not want seconds, Cale said. He set the rod down. I want quiet. The door slid open. Cold air breathed out of the pit. Cale stepped inside. The door sealed with a heavy sound, like fate settling in a chair. Ashenwing turned. The great head lifted. 2 eyes glowed like embers buried in ash. The dragon rose. He was larger than rumor, all shadow and iron, muscle and memory. Cale walked to the center and sat. He crossed his legs and rested his hands on his knees. He did not bow his head. He did not stare. He looked softly, the way you look at a long road when you are not in a hurry. The dragon charged. The ground trembled. Nails like blades scraped stone. A breath like storm air hit Cale's face. The jaws opened. The world narrowed to teeth and heat. Cale did nothing. He did not flinch. The jaws stopped with a gasp of air and the whisper of death deciding to wait. The dragon circled. Once, twice. The tail wrote hard lines across the floor. Cale kept breathing. In, Out. The same rhythm you use when the night is too loud and you need to make it small. Minutes fell like slow rain. At last, Kale spoke. "You look like fury," he said, voice low and even. "But I know that mask. I wore it when the mountain took my family. You look like fire. But it is grief, isn't it?" The dragon paused. A lid slid over one eye. The head cocked. "I cannot fix it," Kale said. "I could not fix mine. I tried to hunt it. I tried to drink it. I tried to sleep fast and wake fast and outrun it. It followed. Then I learned a different way. You do not fight grief. You sit with it until it becomes smaller than you," Ashenwing breathed out. The breath shook. Not rage, not threat. A tremor, like a bridge testing its own strength. "If you strike me," Kale said, "I will die. I know that. If you spare me, I will come back tomorrow and the next day, and we will breathe together until the world is softer." The dragon lowered his head to the level of the man who did not run. The hour ended with no blood on the floor, only the slow beat of two hearts learning how to listen. Kale returned the next day. And the next, he brought nothing but time. He sat. He talked about small things because small things are the bricks that hold a life. He talked about oil on a squeaky hinge, about bread that burned on one side, about a river that sounded like glass when winter pressed its thumb down. The dragon moved closer by inches, the way dawn moves across a cold field. Shy at first, sure later. Experts watched and argued. Some said trick. Some said luck. The head trainer said softly, "Pay attention." On the 10th morning, Kyle saw the way Ashenwing held his left wing close, as if sheltering a wound that would not heal. He saw the way the shoulder twitched when the dragon stood. He asked for the old scans. He marked a dark line where nerves bunched and scar pressed. He spoke to the healers and used plain words that carried weight because he had carried pain. They called specialists. People who knew how to teach nerves to sing again. People who had learned, the hard way, how to make fire step back. Treatment began. It was slow work. The dragon tensed, hissed, growled. Kale kept his voice steady. "This will hurt, then help." He hummed the tune his wife used to hum when their son was small and the night was cruel. He told Ashenwing a truth no one had offered. "You are not broken. You are hurt. There is a difference." On a long afternoon, the wing finally lifted clean and wide, black glass catching light, and the sound the dragon made was not a roar. It was the sound a locked door makes when the bolt slides open. Word spread. The emperor planned an exhibition. The people would see that a beast can choose gentleness when offered gentleness first. Crowds gathered. Banners hung. The dragon flew in a wide circle, not high, not long, just enough to show that trust is not a trick. In the royal box, power smiled. In the shadow of that smile, envy festered. A lord who wanted the emperor smaller had set a trap weeks before. A scent in the air, invisible knives for the brain, aggression brewed in glass. It leaked now, quiet as a lie. Kyle smelled it first, though it had no scent. He saw it in the eyes, bright to blank. Calm to hunt. He spoke into the little speaker on his collar. "Stop it. Something is wrong." The order to stop met the order to entertain, and both broke on the stone of pride. Ashenwing reeled. The body chose old patterns. The drugs pushed. The crowd screamed. The guards raised guns because that is what guards are taught to do. Kale stepped between the guns and the dragon because that is what love teaches you to do. He lifted his arms. "Do not shoot," he said. The words were small in a sea of noise, but the shape of him was large enough to make men pause. He turned to the dragon. The mouth opened, and Kale saw darkness and remembered how his son laughed, and he hummed the tune anyway. "You are not alone," he said. "Even if you kill me, I am not leaving." He said it like a vow. He said it like a hand on a shoulder at 3 in the morning when the house is full of ghosts. Something flickered. Not in the lights, in the eyes. Wildness cracked. The drug was a river, but will is a rock, and the rock held. The dragon trembled and lowered his head to the ground with a thud that shook dust up in a thin halo. He chose not to bite. He chose trust through pain. The healers poured clean air through the vents. The poison thinned. The crowd forgot how to scream and remembered how to breathe. The emperor walked down and looked at a man who had chosen to stand where wise men do not stand. "Brave," he said. "Foolish," he added. Kale said, "He is my friend. We do not run from our friends." The hunt for the saboteur did not take long. Coins leave trails. Fear leaves fingerprints. The lord who bent his knee in council twisted now in iron. The empire learned a lesson about what power is and what it is not. That night, Kale slept in the arena, one hand on warm scales, the way you sleep with a fevered child when the fever breaks, but you do not trust the quiet yet. Morning brought questions. The emperor asked the one that mattered. "Why you? Why did you succeed when our best failed?" Kale searched for words that would not sound like an insult dressed as wisdom. "You tried to command pain," he said. "Pain does not obey commands. You tried to be strong by ignoring hurt. Hurt grows in the dark. My people learned after we broke ourselves many times that you must sit with pain until it loses its teeth. You call this weakness. We call it work. Something changed in the palace after that. The emperor did not order more cages. He ordered more chairs. He ordered rooms where quiet was respected. He ordered teachers who knew about nerves and memory and how fear sits in bone. Kale walked the halls and listened to creatures other trainers called problems. He asked one simple question: what hurts? An ice beast raged because heat gnawed at it. The heat was lowered. The rage melted. A firebird struck because eggs were missing. The eggs were returned. Silence learned to sing again. A shadow thing screamed because it was alone. Companions were brought, and the scream turned into a low, happy hum. Trainers learned to see with new eyes. They wrote fewer rules and more questions. The head trainer stood by a window and watched the sky soften at evening. "I was taught to win," she said. "You taught me to wait." Kyle shook his head. "The dragon taught us both," he said. "I only listened first. Weeks became months. The empire measured progress not only in quiet arenas but in quiet minds. The emperor started a fund that paid for healers of the heart as well as healers of the body. People laughed at first, then brought their wounds and found they were not laughed at in return. The word soft lost its insult. It sat beside strong, and they held hands. Kyle went to the arena each day. There was no exhibition now. There was no need to prove anything. There was only a man and a dragon and the work of being alive. Some days they said nothing. Some days Kale spoke to the ring on his cord and the memories inside it. Some days Ashen Wing flew at dawn and painted a long arc on the morning that said, "Still here." Children came on quiet visits. They learned that fear can be held and studied like a shell in a palm until it becomes a fact instead of a storm. They wrote letters to the dragon the way children write letters to winter, asking it to be kind. Kyle read the letters out loud, and a creature who had been called a monster made a sound that was not in the books. A low purr, rough and tender, like a promise. One evening, the head trainer said, "They will call this the Arden Way." Kyle smiled with one side of his mouth. "It is not mine," he said. "It belongs to anyone who has ever said, 'I will sit with you in your dark.'" The dragon pressed his great head against Kale's shoulder. The pressure was careful and immense. Kale closed his eyes and let the weight remind him that carrying something together is different from carrying it alone. They said the dragon was untamable. They said it could not be taught. They said we must choose safety over wonder, control over compassion. They were wrong. The strongest thing in the empire was not a weapon, not a wall, not a law. It was a simple sentence spoken in a steady voice when the world shook. "You are not alone." When night came, the dragon flew once, and the city watched the sky shimmer as if a river had lifted into the air. Kale touched the ring on the cord, said two names in a whisper, and walked home in the hush that follows a hard day well lived. The dragon settled. The empire breathed. And for the first time in a long time, nobody mistook fear for strength.